Hey, legends, welcome back to the Mason Cox Show. Big episode today. We're going to talk about the Collingwood Brisbane win over the weekend, a 1-point thriller. We're going to dissect that. We've got the Freo and also the Carlton games and how big they were over the weekend. We're going to have a big watch on them this week to see who makes finals. And lastly, Dan Houston's bump. We're going to talk about that because that is a big thing that's going to happen this week for Port Adelaide. And we're going to see how that all shakes out. But without further ado, we're going to get straight into this one starting now. All right, legends, let's get straight into this podcast. A lot to cover here, and obviously is the tipping point of the season. There's only one game left in the regular season, so a lot to shake out still to go in this year. But without further ado, welcome, Brayden.
Mixed feelings. Mace got the big win, but, you know, it's unless you can get a 200-point turnaround between you and Carlton.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Oh, we're slim chances over here. If that doesn't happen, getting on the drink. Anyway, we go straight into the clangers because I have one that's an absolute no-brainer this week. And for all reports, they're already leaning into the good guy stuff going into the tribunal. But Dan Houston, absolutely, and I don't want to say something insensitive because there was a victim in all this. Izak Rankine taken from the field after a really bad concussion. But saying that, just a brain fade by Dan Houston to really line him up. It was an old-fashioned shirt front from yesteryear. Absolutely locked up Izak Rankine, which is something that you never want to see. Oddly enough, and this isn't my...
Oh, gosh, this makes me nervous the way you're looking.
This isn't my clanger, but it was play on. They just played on. You got a bloke, you could see his soul left his body, and they're like, nah, keep going.
Yeah, looked all right.
Keep going, looked all right to me, mate. But yeah, I'm giving it to Dan Houston just because he may have cost himself finals.
Yeah.
Like, depending on what it's going to be, and we'll dissect the bump a little bit later in the pod, but you can't imagine that it's not a 4+ weeker.
Man.
And yeah, wow. It's just that moment of just that little rush of blood.
Yeah.
And you've played your whole season to get to this point, and you may have just thrown it all away.
Oh, it'd be so frustrating, especially after it happens. And a lot of times opposition will come up to you and let you know.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, that's 6 weeks on the sideline, mate. Oh, good luck. Enjoy the holiday.
Have you done something in a game where you're like, shit, I'm probably in trouble for that?
Oh, yeah.
And how much are you in your own head in that moment? Are you thinking about contest to contest, next contest, forget that? Or are you like, I'm going to miss a week. I'm definitely missing a week. Or it's a big fine.
Yeah, you're probably thinking like, man, there goes that new TV. No, I've had that happen before. You've collected people high. I think I even did it once where I actually like slide tackled someone. It's like early days, you know, and it was like very obvious. It's
soccer
like
background.
Soccer background kind of like took over in the brain. But yeah, it plays on your mind for about like 2 seconds. And then like people will talk about it and stuff, but you just kind of move on to the next contest and try not to think about it. And then you get to the point where you go back, you know, after the game and you get the text message, you know, a day later. And it's like, hey, shoot me a call, you know, from one of the admin. And, you know, it's about essentially how much you've been fined or essentially how much you've been suspended for. So that's never a fun little chat from the GM. But, yeah, it's all part of footy.
Well, we know they just take it from your bank account anyway.
Yeah. The Christmas party, concussion research is what we're calling that. But I'll go with my clanger. Now, this one's an interesting one because there's an amazing human being. I've met him over the years, and he's retiring this year, Dyson Heppell, who's played for Essendon Football Club, one of the last ones who's gone through, you know, a lot of that early turmoil that was going on at the club early in his career, and he's one of the last people that's still left there that's gone through it. And it was just kind of sad. I mean, it's a clanger, but it's almost just like man, I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
You know, like you wish you would have you never end it on your own terms. It's a very, you know, cliche thing to say, but you just wish someone who was such an icon at that club for so long was given a bit of that, you know, that farewell that he kind of could have done in a game. And unfortunately, they didn't play him over the weekend.
Yeah, missed opportunity because the argument coming out of the club was obviously they were still a chance for finals, so they wanted to field the best team possible.
Can't understand that, you know.
But yeah, and obviously we don't get to play team selectors, but otherwise, mate, I'd get a gig, especially at Essendon. I'd be walking.
Wow.
But yeah, clearly, in hindsight, they go down by 40-odd points. He wouldn't have made that difference. And if anything, you could argue that players play on emotions as much as like coaches and people like to think that they don't. They're human. And seeing Dyson run out for his last game definitely would have added some motivation to the occasion. So it would have been good, but well, I'm not here to pile on Essendon for a third week in a row. Actually, there's a whole segment.
Hindsight's 2020, brother. Well, let's get into the results. What do we got?
We haven't even got up to Essendon yet. We get through the results because Essendon, to kick things off, 59-98, going down to Sydney. Gold Coast losing at home, so they're not even good there anymore against Melbourne. GWS getting a win over Freo. Freo may have just dropped their season, but they were pretty, they fought to the death against GWS, who is turning into one hell of a team. Collingwood, slimmest of margins against Brisbane. Great to see. Port Adelaide got it done over Adelaide, but at what cost with that game? Because they almost burnt Adelaide to the ground. St Kilda got the job done over Jelong, which probably no one saw coming. Western Bulldogs absolutely murdered North, and one player from Western Bulldogs outscored the entire North Melbourne team. Hawthorn got the job done, and they were taking photos and doing memes and GIFs and shit all game. And then West Coast, oh my God, I've never seen such a non-competitive performance.
So much hope.
Oh my God.
So much hope with West Coast. I was like, dude, there's a chance.
Carlton got the win over there. But we did speak last week, and this is in our talking points, how we do like the celebrations in the league and, talking shit. It brings more eyeballs, more attention. It's fun. It's good to talk about. And there was a lot of celebrating, a lot of taunting going on in the game and in the lead up to the showdown. Yeah. Now, obviously, Adelaide's season is done, but it's never done when you can hurt the rival going into finals. So it was a fiery occasion, and Josh Rochelle in the lead up on Adelaide radio said that we all know Port Adelaide fans, they don't really have any teeth. Started making fun of them for not having teeth, which is, it's an age-old insult.
Kind of familiar. I've heard that plenty about our supporters. So.
See? Collingwood fans get taunted for having no teeth, and then Port just need to steal more shit from Collingwood. They stole the prison bar jumper. Now they're running with no teeth. That's Collingwood's thing. Leave them alone. But that really built up the game. You said the slightest thing about the stockyards.
Dude.
10 months before the season started. Man. GWS held on to that. Now, how do you think they handled this, being told they had no teeth in the week of the game? Didn't go down too well, but Josh Rochelle did go back, slot a goal, ran right up to the crowd and started pointing at his teeth and then pointing at the Port fans in the crowd. Now, there's been a lot that's kind of bubbled over in this game. We saw Willie Rioli with one of the old times. He kicked what was pretty much the sealer, did the go to sleep, and then waved to the crowd, which is, it's always a good one because it gets them so fired up. But then we had the Port Adelaide mascot was assaulted. Some of the players were attacked.
Male or female mascot?
It could have been a child.
A lightning bolt somehow got kicked or something. I don't even know.
And and then players, which we obviously don't condone. Actually, we would go as far to say as we condemn it. Were attacked on social media and all of that stuff. So it all spilled out. Now, that's a long build-up to what I'm going to pose as a simple question.
Yes.
Do the players, we talked about the players, should be able to give it back as good as they get it.
Yeah.
But do the players have some form of obligation to make sure it doesn't get out of hand and things can boil over? And we saw it in Adelaide on the weekend.
Dude, I don't know if you've ever seen Malice at the Palace, the NBA game, where you got Ron Artest throwing haymakers in the stands. We don't want that happening. If there's a place for it to happen, though, I think it's Adelaide Oval if all the stadiums are out there. I think there's probably, I'm all cool with it, man. I think there needs to be like an understanding that there is a boundary between the fan and the player. And I love this kind of like rev up and getting all the hype around the game. And so would the media. The media would be all over this and thinking like, this is great headlines, this is great selling tickets to games and all that kind of stuff. And there's probably, we talk about like the racial vilification on social media. That's like just beyond understanding of why people do that. It does my head in. And I think some of that kind of goes to the responsibility of some of the platforms also for being able to recognize that and being able to block people and stuff like that, through certain words or whatever it may be. That are kind of obvious, racial vilification. But it's very hard, I think, to to tell your fans to not be extremely emotional and caught up in the moment, right?
Yeah.
I just don't think, like, obviously footy and, sport in general can really bring out emotions in people, and that's kind of the beauty of entertaining. But at the same time, I think it can bring out beautiful positive emotions. It can bring out also the very worst in you. So I think there needs to be an understanding between the two that, you can't jump over the fence and go chase someone down. But it's like, at the same point, I understand it is it's an emotional game. So I'm for taunting and everything else. I'm for kind of like, creating a few headlines and have a bit of fun with it and stuff. And as long as there's that mutual respect between, I guess, players out after the game. And stuff like that. So, we've had it before. We've had all duck, no dinner, all that kind of stuff inside on. Yeah, we've had a few things kind of, and, it adds to it. And sometimes, you might write that up on the board before the game. So, this is a bit of extra motivation.
Yeah, it makes the game that much better and juicier. Port Adelaide, post-game, they were posting photos of the Port Adelaide toothbrush on their socials and getting the players to hold it. Ollie Wines was pointing to his teeth saying that we have them or whatever he was saying. It definitely adds to the game. I kind of wonder, I would like to see more club-to-club stuff. Like the all duck, no dinner stuff was like club-to-club. I like that stuff. If you feel like you can handle potentially motivating the opposition by giving something for them to rally against, I think that's cool of you to be able to be like, bring your best.
Bring your best. We can take
bring your best over. I do want to unpack a bit more of this Dan Houston bump.
Yeah.
Just because it was wild to see. In the moment, obviously straight away, I don't know how it wasn't a free kick, but we'll park that because I don't know how a lot of things aren't free kicks at the moment. But just have you seen the incident? What did you think of it? How do you see it being handled from here? He's going to the tribunal. I feel like just park this good bloke stuff. I hate that the good bloke stuff should even come into any on-field incidents at all. Like, because accidents get rubbed out for weeks. So, like, obviously good blokes and bad blokes can have accidents. So, like, I don't get the whole point of the argument. But on its merits, seeing Houston come in from, 10 metres off, run him down, shirt front him, he gets knocked out. How do you see the incident?
We've said before, we're Ken Hinckley fans, we're Port Adelaide fans on this podcast, but I'd be blown away if he's playing finals.
Yeah.
I think
that's 5 weeks max. So next week and then 4 finals.
Depends how they go if they make top 4.
They could do 3. Yeah, so 4 to 5 games.
I think, like, obviously you see the concussion stuff, and I'm not sure. There's a whole table and kind of like graph that can show you exactly what, depending on how high it is and tension and all this other stuff of how many weeks he can get.
Yeah.
But I think the way the AFL has been quite, pretty consistent about, taking the maximum penalty with these kind of things. It'd be tough. They'll go through the whole, like you said, the good guy, he doesn't have that bad of a background, whatever it is. I'm not sure if he's had incidences in the past.
It sucks, and you never want to call for a player to get X amount of weeks. But, I wouldn't be surprised anywhere from 4 through to 8. There would be nothing that surprises me out of it because it's one of the most intentional ones that I've seen in a fair while.
Yeah.
And we've been seeing big suspensions. There's no way this could get less than 4. Just given the fact, I always go back to, the AFL always gets themselves in a predicament where they give one incident lower or higher than they should have, and then it sets the benchmark for the rest going forward. Peter Wright, way back at the start of the year.
Sydney game, I want to say.
Yeah, was that close to getting like a chest mark, but was like
half second.
Second, if that, was just off and concussed a player and got 4 weeks. Now, if that footy action can get 4 weeks and this is just lining up a bloke and kind of drilling him. I don't see it, but anyway, we wait for the tribunal stuff.
Tribunal, maybe you'll get in person, get one of those tribunals in person.
Down there, they go, they reel out
the tweeting from Tom Morris.
They got the footage of him at the soup kitchen, handing out bread and shit. Judge shit on its merit, because that's another thing that opened up a can of worms is the good bloke defense. And now every bloke gets to have the good bloke defense.
Well, hopefully they've hired Carlton's lawyer.
Oh, well, Charlie Cameron got the good bloke defense, and he's been done like 20 times for punching blokes off the out the back of play. Anyway, I digress. We move into the big winners. Yep. Port Adelaide,
Huge.
Right up there with a massive win. We've been dissecting it over Adelaide in the showdown. Zach Butters, most touches ever in a showdown.
Crazy.
42 and a goal, and they've won 7 of their last 8. They've got to be prime for this final series.
I'd say that's pretty much in form is the definition of that. To get 42 in a showdown against your arch rival at home, there'd be no better feeling.
Kick the seal, like the last goal of the game.
Dagger, oh man, that's a great feeling. But yeah, Port Adelaide, they're playing really well. Like you said, 7 of the last 8. They're one of those teams I think people are looking at and saying maybe this is their year.
Yeah, I haven't run the numbers, but it looks like Port are going to verse GWS in the first semi or second semi, however it rolls out, second v third. They're probably the 2 most informed teams in the comp at the moment. And first v fourth is probably oddly out of form. You got Jelong, if they end up locking in that 4th spot.
Just lost to St Kilda.
They just lost to the Saints, who aren't making finals. And Sydney, we know how they've been travelling.
That's wild,
even on the weekend, it wasn't overly convincing. But GWS, oh my God, they're flying. And it's all off the back of, the main spearhead, Jesse Hogan up forward, kicked another bag, 6 goals, 4. And it's their 7th consecutive win, which is an equal club record. And they've been up there for a fair while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty impressive what they're doing. I mean, Freo was in the game for most of it, and
they battled hard.
Oh man, it was on while we're kind of warming up. So you're kind of looking up there because if Freo wins, essentially, we were out of the final chance. So we were kept checking in, and Jesse Hogan just kind of went off every single time. I feel like you look up, you're like, oh, he's kicked another one. Oh, he's kicked another one. But yeah, they're in form, man. They're killing it right now. So you look at these teams, we'll talk about it after this, but the Hawthorn, Port, GWS, those are the teams that have had these wins kind of, one after another, and they're on this roll, and they've got this confidence, and they've, got this belief in their game plan. Whenever it comes to final, it's going to be pretty important to be able to have that in your back pocket.
I still don't know how finals is going to roll out. I'm hoping it's entertaining because the teams in there are, interstate or I'm going to say smaller supporter-based teams. So I'm hoping for good footy. If we can't get massive crowds, which we know finals, you always get an uptick in crowd, but just want good footy. We got Hawthorn first off the top.
Yeah.
Will Day, super key to their team, got injured, but it looks like he's being cleared of a broken collarbone, so he's still a chance.
Yeah.
Which is great for the Hawks. They kicked 9 straight in the first after Richmond did kick the first goal of the game.
They did win. They were winning at one point.
Yeah, they were in front 4 seconds.
4 seconds.
And then Gunston, he's the old dog Gunston. He's been in a bit of form, kicking 5 after, his little jaunt up to Brisbane for a year that didn't really work, and he came back home. Kick 5, he's been going well. The kids are flying. Watson kicked 3, little fella up forward.
Yeah.
Did the cool celebrations. Cal Shadir kicked 3. Jai Newcomb, 33-1. He seems prime for finals. He's just like a hard nut in there getting the pill. But they're all so young, and they're just filled with that confidence. Can that confidence get you through finals?
It can definitely make. I think of us in 2018, we were similar to that. We were quite young, had a lot of confidence in the way we played, and not arrogant, but we definitely were kind of we're a chance here, and we're going to have a chance against anyone we go up against. So I feel like they're kind of like that at the moment. They've got these guys like Gunston. You look at him; he's kicked 5 goals over the weekend. He's one of the older guys of the club. Who's it's good to see even the guys who are experienced to be playing at a high level still too. And you look at them, you go, okay, anyone that goes up against them, we've talked about this, is going to be not looking past them, that's for sure. They're going to go this, we can't take them as the Hawthorn of 2 years ago where they're finishing 18th on the ladder and stuff like that. They're a totally different team now. And everyone, that's 2-3 years ago, they're like, oh man, Hawthorn I just don't know if they're going to turn around. I don't know what's going to happen. And then if you look at it now, they're making finals, they're in the top 8, and you're going, we really maybe over kind of, analyze this of saying maybe they're too young and all this kind of stuff. And they've really turned it around really quickly to be able to say, okay, we're finals ready now, which is crazy to think.
Yeah. And there's a lot of commentary around teams that are, that make up the bottom 4 of the top 8. And traditionally they haven't really gone on to win the flag. There's been Bulldogs who constantly seem to make a grand final from outside the top 4. But I don't people are still saying that about this year. I feel like some of the more a couple at least, Bulldogs and Hawthorn, in red hot form. more so than Sydney and Geelong, for example. So I feel like anyone throughout the 8 is a chance. Carlton gets in, their fans can drag them across the line in finals. Like, there's so many variables in this final series. I hope it all just comes together. Speaking of Carlton, they went across the West Coast. And there was a glimmer of hope, especially for Collingwood. They didn't have Sard, Mackay, Martin, Fogarty, Curnow, Boyd all went out in the last game. Away to West Coast. All they had to do was have a crack, and they just couldn't get anything working for them. Paddy Cripps obviously dragging them through another contest, 35 disposals, 10 clearances. That's a pretty high percentage there, Mace.
Pretty important person to stop if you're going to win a game.
They did move Brodie Kemp forward, and he kicked 4 goals. So they found something in Brodie Kemp. But, yeah, they went over there and ended up just demolishing West Coast, which, it was probably there to be seen with everyone in the lead up for the week. Like, Carlton were underdogs, going into the game. Like, West Coast still suck. Like, they're not great. Like, they're down the bottom of the ladder for a reason. So, it was probably shouldn't have been a surprise in the end that they could go over there and get the job done. But, where do you see them? And they have to get some of these players back for finals. Otherwise, you wouldn't think they're a chance against the top 8 teams.
Nah, you look at that, 5 or 6 guys that are out. Like, if you're going to be winning finals, you definitely want to at least a Mackay or Curnow in your forward line. They're a chance. I think if they win over the weekend, then they can make finals and they'll take Freo's spot. But it's one of those things you go, man, want to be fit, fire, and have your best people playing, and it's going to be an ask for them to be able to make a push in finals if they have those out. But they do get Tom de Koning's going to come back, I want to say, so that will be a massive end for them to be able to put into the forward line and maybe be able to play one of those 2 roles of the big keys that are out at the moment. But they're. I was just furious that they won over the weekend. I was sitting there thinking, West Coast, let's go at home. Let's have a crack here, and. It just didn't work. It just got worse and worse.
I just wanted it to be a game. It just wanted it to be a game, but they couldn't hit a handball. They couldn't hit a kick. They kept missing. I was just like, this is what it's like to be a West Coast fan this year. I get it. Let's jump into the Western Bulldogs because talk about fun teams to watch. Although they are up and down, they're a bit more consistent at the moment, but they came out and absolutely – the Sunday – was not a very fun day to watch because there was 3 absolute demolition jobs. We talk about the Western Bulldogs. I don't know if there's a more potent forward line at the moment because Sam Darcy kicked 7 goals over the weekend. Casual. Which beat his father, Luke Darcy's record of 6, which has got to sting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got to sting a little bit. I wonder how that car ride home goes. just dad sitting there. You just go, hey, can't just be, no, son, no, nothing from you today.
Because he can never get it back. He can never, Luke Darcy can never get it back. We'll see him next week playing, Div 6.
You're playing a Chuka, bros. It's just,
but if you kick 7 against Moama.
Tell me something interesting.
But he kicked 7. So Sam Darcy outscored North Melbourne by himself.
Crazy to think.
Which is never fun when they wheel out that graphic.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
That's stat.
But outside of that, Ugelhagen 3, Waitman 2, Norton 2. Like, that's a stack. They scored 20 goals for the game.
Crazy.
Yeah, they're just hitting form at the right time of year. Obviously, they've had a couple of stumbles, but they seem pretty consistent for the most part. We'll get into the big losers because
few here.
Interesting. I'll start with Jelong because they could have pretty much got themselves a home first final with the double chance. We all know if you can finish in that top 2 spot, you're a pretty damn good chance to win the final, or at least make the grand final. But they couldn't get it done because they dropped to St Kilda. Now, they were doing well in the first half and then just fell off the face of the planet. Now, I don't know if that's because they had to travel back from Perth.
Oh.
Does that take it out of you?
On a short break sometimes, you got to think you fly back. You have to fly back the next day. You can't fly back that night usually because, the airport and stuff, or you might catch a red eye. I've traveled to Perth. I don't envy those people at all. I do not envy Freo or West Coast having to do that so often. But yeah, it's just interrupts recovery, I think, more than anything.
Do you can get used to it? Like, do you reckon Freo and West Coast ever truly get used to it?
I think they'd probably have a different schedule than other people in a sense of recovery. Like they'd probably, whether it's like stay an extra night or like, the next morning you get down to the sea bass or something like that and get in the water and do recovery and then get on the airplane or something along those lines. But they would have the experience in it. You kind of, if you're traveling with them too, you're probably flying business, I think. I think that's in the AFL CBAs for them to fly business. Yeah. So they are getting looked after in that sense to an, obviously you'd rather just not have to do it in general, but given the fact that you're 4 hours from Melbourne, 3 from Adelaide, and another 4 probably from like Sydney and Gold Coast, I wouldn't love going back and forth. And if I first got recruited, like, Fremantle was one of the teams. That was one of the big reasons I didn't go.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't want to be on a flight every other week.
Yeah. I think something that's always understated is like, it's a nice novelty. Like, for example, playing for Collingwood, when I used to travel with the team, it was like, we travel 4 times a year. So it's a novelty to like stay in a hotel and like, you'd get pretty damn sick of it when you're staying in there half the season. You miss out on if you got a partner, if you got a kid, if you got a family, all of that stuff. That makes it harder than just the recovery alone. But anyway, we're not even talking about them. Let's jump back into the Jelong game because they were up by almost 6 goals at halftime. And then they kicked 5 goals to 13 in the second half. So St Kilda just got on a roll and it was hard to stop their momentum. Well, evidently, because they didn't. And the Saints fans, although, they're not going to make finals, they showed up and they really threw some voice in there. It was great to hear. They may have cost themselves a home final. They'll probably get a top 4 because they have West Coast in Geelong. Speaking about big travel, that's as big as she gets. So they'll probably get a top 4, but whether it's a top 2, it's probably unlikely, but we'll wait to see what happens with the results.
Credit to St Kilda. They've had a few scalps over the year. Yeah. They might not be in the top 8, and I kind of been out of the the hunt for that for a while, but I feel like for some reason they bobbed up here and there and just kind of stuck it to people whenever they probably didn't expect it.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword for St Kilda fans because they would be like, it's great that they're getting some good wins now, but they've kind of done this historically where they'll win some good games in the run home, not make finals and not do damage in finals type stuff. It's like, I don't know. We'll see how they go next year, but they are, a speed bump to a lot of these teams in the run to finals. Freo, they're so disappointing to me because
this is rough.
A couple of weeks ago, they were going for top 2, and then they dropped the game to Essendon after having the 5-goal lead here in Melbourne, and then went home and lost to Geelong, who just lost to St Kilda. It's one of those, the swings and roundabouts, but I feel like they've just dropped their season. Now they have to rely on a result. They got to get Carlton to lose to Saints, and then they have to beat Port at home, whose Port's, not an easy beat heading into finals. They're in top 4 at the moment. So they should have probably been close to top 4 if they would have been in the top 4 right now if they had won those 2 games alone. And now they're sitting in 9th.
You'd be frustrated as a Freo supporter. I feel like last week was their top 4 easy. And then now you're sitting there and they go 2 losses and then these other teams come up and just pip them at the last moment. Gosh, that's got to be rough. And you got Port Adelaide, Adelaide.
Port in Perth.
In Perth, sorry. Yeah, in Perth. And dude, to have to do that. And you don't even know if that's going to be able to get you across the line. You have
to have
be
a dead rubber.
Yeah, it could just be nothing. So, yeah, that's got to be frustrating. To get to the end of the year, I felt like we kind of hyped them up and was like, oh, they're successful, they're going to make the 8. They're going to make the 8 all year. We kind of been saying this. And it was almost in my mind, a lock that they were going to make finals. And now we're sitting here and I'm going, they're actually not. They're probably just going to miss out. It's insane to think. My mind doesn't comprehend it because I've just been so convinced that they're a top 8 team.
It's just so easy to slide with how tight it was. It's real unfortunate, but hopefully that last game is alive because that'll be amazing to watch.
That'd be great to watch. Oh, it'd be so good to watch.
Let's jump into Essendon, ready to pile on. Because, I don't know, we've had some support from Essendon fans. They feel like we're, the mouthpiece for their supporter base at the moment because it would be very, very frustrating to be an Essendon supporter, not only this year, but for the past 20-odd years.
Yeah.
But, they absolutely dominated the first half of this game.
Absolutely smashed it.
Like, so much. They cut to the halftime and then went to the desk at Fox Footy, and they were just saying they were dominating every number, every stat you could, except for on the scoreboard. Second quarter, they kicked 1 goal for after complete domination. Just to have that would be so frustrating. They kicked 4 goals from 36 entries in the first half to Sydney's 3 goals from 16 entries.
Yikes.
So they had an extra 20 entries for a goal.
Yeah.
That's
insane.
Sydney eventually, because Sydney was close enough on the scoreboard, you kick 1 or 2,
and then you
get momentum, and then they're on fire. Once Sydney's on fire, they're away. So just another lost opportunity. They got the big win over Freo, which could have set their season alight. And then
I will say that Sam Draper played really well. I watched the first half there, and he was absolutely killing it. And he was kind of that shining light. And what was quite frustrating because the rewards weren't showing on the scoreboard, and Swans essentially finished their chances, and Essendon just kept going in. I'm like, this game should be over almost by now. And you just sit there. And I remember going into that halftime thinking, whenever I was watching it, going, Sydney, if they get 1 or 2 goals in a row, they'll just go and take this. Yeah, and there's no chance Essendon's going to be able. They'll just go far out. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I was sitting there last week with the Sydney Collingwood game, saying to my housemate, Sydney is that team that can kick 5 in 3 minutes. They can just come alight, and they're so quick. If they win it from centre clearance, it's straight out of the guts, and you could have just tap down to Warner, he can kick a goal from 50.
Crazy.
They can turnover score that quick, so it's never over. And even Chris Fagan post his game said, when Collingwood was down by 3, 3 to 5 goal margins are nothing in footy anymore.
Oh no,
they can be
against Sydney.
They can be extinguished within minutes. So I feel like most fans sit on edge, whereas a few years ago, you'd be 5 goals, last quarter we're safe. It's golden. No team comes back from that. Now
a little bit of this is the way the umpiring is going now. You saw in the Sydney game, any out of bounds, they kind of call it anything that they, you essentially have to get the ball out. And it's the fact that it's always live play, just kind of allows the ball to be able to get moved rather than you just going stoppage, kill the clock. I think that change in the rules has actually allowed for these quick comebacks to actually happen. And you see them, every week. I feel like there's at least one of the games it's quick comeback at the end, or a period where there's 4 or 5 goals that are kicked in a row in a very small amount of time.
Yeah. There was some great behind the goal vision of the difference in setups from Essendon with lack of kind of, experience and leadership compared to a Sydney who's been there, done that.
Yeah.
And the way that they set up so quick, there was a stoppage on the wing. And by the time the umpire picked up the ball and bounced it, they'd already rotated their matchups and got a spare man back to fill the hole. And it was they're just so organised.
Yeah.
So, once they get into finals, they're slowly starting to get back into gear, Sydney. So we'll see how they go. Gold Coast, finally, I just wanted to finish on this one for you.
Thanks, bro.
They used to be good at home.
Yeah.
And they used to suck away.
Yeah.
Then they started sucking at home. And then they got their win away. Yeah. So I don't know what you'd rather. You'd probably want them to win at home. But at the moment, they're not winning.
Pretty confused by the whole year with Gold Coast, to be honest. Just don't know what to think.
They should be good. They should be coming good.
They were good for a little bit. I was hyped up. It was our year. It was going to be finals, baby. And then, I don't know, just couldn't win away. And then we decided once it was done, once we were out of the area, we're like, no. We'll prove to people we can do this.
Yeah. I feel like it's... if there's diehard Gold Coast supporters out there, which I'm sure now there is.
Truly.
It's been 12 years or whatever it's been. You would be very sick of hearing there's a glimmer of hope there. The sun's on the horizon.
Yeah.
Next year will be the year. But it feels like that. They got Dimmer. They got the facilities. They got the playing group. Now they just need to bloody win footy.
I'll give it next year. Dimmer's finally going to have his game plan in. He's going to get some of the coaches he wants, some of the players he wants to be able to put his stamp in the place, and that's it. Next year's our year.
If it's not next year, just move him to Tassie. Save a whole lot of admin.
Man.
Uproot the facilities, chuck it on back one of them trucks, take it down, put it on the Spirit of Tasmania, cruise it across.
There's a few teams I could think could probably do that pretty well.
Let's jump into the Collingwood game. First of all, the comeback.
Yep.
3 goals down, few minutes left. Did you feel it in the stadium? Was it something that you were expecting? Did you feel the momentum shift? How'd the game unravel out on the field?
Yeah, we went down quite early, which was frustrating to have that happen. But then I think it was like that second quarter, like Nick had a few. Nick was just a freak in the second quarter.
14 touches, 2 goals.
Absurd. I was sitting there, I remember he had done the running goal, the bounce, and he just kind of essentially ran 50 meters and like bounced it 4 times. And then kicks the goal on the run, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like watching this happen. I just went up to him after, and I looked at him, I go, "You're a freak. You're an absolute freak. Like, I hope you know this." It's just like, it just went straight back to my position. I was just like sitting there, and all I just go like, this kid just, every time you just never know what you're gonna get with him, and it's just always so impressive. But yeah, no. So we started not so well, and then we kind of came back into the game, and you get to the end, and I think like we've been able to manage those moments so well, and you always think there's a chance no matter what the score is. And we got to that a little bit, and we had kind of gained a little bit of momentum, and it was just that one spark, and it was like that Izak Rankine tackle where you talk about shooter finally getting like a snap and getting the reward for effort, and things like that just get everyone going. And then you've got the 60,000 that go absolutely nuts, and then it just kind of piles on and compiles, and then that's whenever you get the other 2 goals and we go in front and we go, holy smokes, there's a minute and a half. And John Noble had a few important little, moments in there. And then, a few tackles that were pretty impressive, and gets the shot at goal with like 40 seconds left that essentially ices it. So, yeah, it was pretty wild. It was a wild scenario, very up and down game, but emotions were definitely high, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was a good game of footy to watch because it felt, danger signs early. And it was just like, is Collingwood going to stay in the hunt for this?
Yeah.
Or is there a breaking point for the season? But to your credit, you stuck with it. It does help when Nick Dacos comes out and kicks 2, has 14 in the second. There was a moment he was running to the bench, and then you see him kind of stop and like exhale, and it was like Fly going like, nah, get back
out there, brother. We need you.
Which is normal.
Not coming off for the rest of the game,
I'd be
bro.
like, sports science, shut the fuck up. Get him back out there. He's going to have 20 and kick 6. But that was good to see. You did mention Shooter. So Lockie Shields came over from Freo, has talked about, dealing with the pressure of playing for Collingwood. There was a couple of moments earlier in the game. He missed a set shot that dropped short. He dropped the mark in the goal square. It could have been that moment where, the demons really set in. Yeah. You're in front of 65,000 at the G. The game's on the line.
Yeah.
But he comes through. He kicks 2 goals in a minute to essentially, get the Pies back in it before Bo kicked the winner. Like, how do the players kind of get around him? Do they know that he's going through that? How do you support, like, your teammate who has kind of said that he goes through these kind of anxious periods?
Yeah, I think it's never ideal, obviously, to be in that scenario where you've missed a few early. But you got to kind of go to him and just be like, look, man, like don't focus on that. Focus on the things that like make you an incredible player. Like he's a massive pressure player for us in the forward line. Like he sets up really well. He works really well with our talls. Like all those little things. If you kind of like focus on the small things you do really well, then the other things you'll gain confidence from that and then be able to kind of perform the big things also. So I think that's one thing. Like it's tough to just sit there and mentally it's a lot easier to say these kind of things, but in the moment to sit there and turn around and be like, no, like I've missed one, but I'll kick the next 2. Like that's a lot harder to kind of convince yourself sometimes in the moment. But yeah, like credit to him, man. Like he worked through it and was able to kind of be a massive, obviously push in the very end and get those 2 goals that, led to a win. So as an athlete, it's hard. It's very hard. But I think if you have the support of the people around you just to remind you of the important things that actually, put you in a positive mindset, it makes a big difference to be able to hopefully turn that around.
And it's good. Focus on the things you're good at.
Yeah. Control the controllables.
So what are you good at? Because we saw you go back for 2 set shots. And boy, oh boy, did they not make the distance. What was going through your head there? Because I saw you looking for the dish.
I was looking for the dish. Yeah, I think it was the one that was like 45 out. And I was like sitting there and I pulled back and I'm like, usually Bruzzy comes up and he's screaming for the pill and sitting there waiting, doesn't show.
Just on an island.
All right, I'll take this. Okay. I think everyone's on the line going, yeah, all right, I have a chance here. So, yeah, 2 set shots, both didn't make the distance. Both pretty far out, but yeah, we'll work on it this week and hopefully have the wind at my back.
I think silver lining is they don't go on the board. So you still got that accuracy. It's around the 50-50 this year, but we're building on that. Big game next week. Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
More than likely, if we're being rational humans and not irrational Collingwood fans, not making finals this year. What's the feeling? Have you said it out loud? No. Are you allowed to say it out loud?
Not allowed to say it out loud.
Is it a premiership hangover? Why haven't you been able to get yourself back to finals? Or has it just been that competitive this year? No,
it has been. It's been a very even competition throughout the year. We've had 2 draws that essentially, have robbed us of 4 points. You get one of those, we're essentially in the 8. It's kind of like crazy to think.
The draw with Freo ended up screwing you both.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to think that. But it's 1 point that changes the whole season, right? So you look back to those moments and you think, oh man, just kind of the what ifs of the season. But I think there's still a chance if there's a 200-point difference between us beating Melbourne by 100 and Carlton losing by 100 or something like that. But yeah, no, I don't think it's a premiership hangover by any means. We had quite a few injuries throughout the year and there's no excuses. Obviously we want to be in the top 8 and we've got high standards to do that. But I'd be lying to you to say that everything was extremely smooth sailing this year for us. And that's just kind of part of the experience, right? It's part of sport. It's not everything's going to go your way. And, it has been a very even competition. And, you almost got this after the win in the Brisbane game, you're like, oh, okay, so what's going to happen? What's going to happen, for us, this, and you're kind of going through all the different things in your head. But, there's still a glimmer of hope, but it's going to take a valiant effort, that's for sure.
Weirder shit has happened this year because it's been a very weird season. And that's what I'd say, following the club, it doesn't feel like a premiership hangover. It doesn't even feel like it's a terrible season because the way that the season has rolled out, we can see just by looking at the ladder how close it is from 1st through to 13th.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those years where it has to line up perfectly for all the teams in all the right ways. A little slow start, 0-3 or whatever you guys started the season. And then the dip in the middle, you guys were flying until you had a bunch of injuries in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
And, every team, almost outside of Hawthorn, have had their fair share of injuries this year. And you can see just depending on what time of year that it's hit them is pretty much been the difference. And it's literally we're only talking one game across the season that is the difference between so many of these teams from at least 2nd through to 13th. It's pretty crazy. So it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like this has been a massive fall off.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have the list right now to go again next year?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've definitely got the experience in there, and we've got that good kind of balance at the moment, I think, with what's going on. And we just had a lot of guys that were quite important, I think, go down in certain moments throughout the year. And that's just kind of unfortunate. But I think we do have the list, man. I don't think there's a massive difference between last year and this year's list as far as names on it. So I don't think there should be a point where you go crazy and start making all these rash decisions and stuff. I think we know that we have the people in there and the right people to be successful. And, we just have to make sure that we're doing the right things at the right times to be able to do that.
Yeah. I think you get, Tom Mitchell back, who's still, I was surprised how young he is with that hairline that he's got. But
Surprise.
No, he went the shave. He went the shave. He saved it.
Yeah.
And then his injury wasn't a soft tissue. And then you got Myerchek who did his pec.
Yeah.
Who's like a lot of these players just got unlucky. So you get them back out on the park. You get another year without Nathan Murphy, to shore up that back line. Q got moved around and had some positive stuff happen over the last couple of weeks, being able to get on the scoreboard. So, yeah, I feel and we never know who's going to come to Collingwood because one thing over this entire journey that never gets mentioned is Collingwood is a destination club. It's always a destination club because it's one of the bigger clubs in the competition. But retaining players, They're very good at retaining players. They don't really see a lot of player turnover. No mass exodus. No players wanting to go home or somewhere else or, seek other opportunities. A lot of players that stay for the long haul. And I feel like that's never really talked about. So, you're good at retaining players, and then that gives you the ability to top up. It's not you're not putting your finger in the hole as the boat's leaking. You just need a couple of little top ups, and we'll see how we go. But let's jump into the preview for next week, because we'll just fly through this because we have your fan questions coming up, which is great. Melbourne, Collingwood, big game at the G. It's we need a 100-point win, no pressure. You could just go a straight up 199-point win.
That's the goal. So that's what we're shooting for that.
So if you don't kick a goal in a 200-point win, there's something wrong.
We have issues.
Obviously, Collingwood wins that one. Geelong, West Coast, GMHBA. That's
tough to look past Geelong.
Tough to look past Geelong. And if they don't win it, they're going to have a short finals campaign. Yeah. Richmond, Gold Coast at the G. Tough one.
Baby. Gold Coast, baby. We're an away team all of a sudden now.
It's very much the team down the bottom of the ladder sees the light at the end of the tunnel, and they can get up for the last game. So I'm going Richmond for that one. Okay. Hawthorn North. Oh my God, it is in Launceston though.
Oh jeez. Yep. I'm just gonna go Hawks and move on from that one.
2 home teams, funnily enough, down in Tassie. Hawthorn for sure. Brisbane, Essendon at the Gabba.
Brisbane for sure. Easy. They come back and they get a win before they go into finals, I think.
I feel if they say, Dice, we're chucking you back in for the last game, I'd say, get stuffed, I'm going to Torquay. Whoa. Why would you fly up to Brisbane just to get absolutely massacred and then fly back? Unless they go, we'll get you a little Airbnb and you can stay up there in the sun as long as you want, mate. So Brisbane, obviously, to get that. Sydney, Adelaide at the SCG.
Sydney. I'll go Sydney on this one. I think it'll be closer than you probably would say. Yeah, I've got a weird feeling about that one of all the games. I think that's one that Adelaide, will give a bit of a little bit of scare factor. It might be for a quarter or two, but I think Sydney will go, oh my gosh, we're a bit closer than we want to be here.
It's got bad juju. Sydney really needs to be pumping them in that one leading into finals. They need proper confidence because they are getting wins, but they're super shaky. Yeah. But I'll go Sydney over Adelaide there. Western Bulldogs, GWS, game of the round.
Yeah. Very much so the game of the round. It's going to be the two teams in form going against each other in a beautiful place called Ballarat.
Why the flip did they put it out at Ballarat for the last round?
That's a great question.
Who's coming up with that? That's wild.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But
that's one of those ones that's oh shit, we forgot Ballarat.
Wait, where are we going to fit that in the schedule?
Just chuck it last.
Oh, man.
I don't know about this one. I feel just being away and GWS can win everywhere.
It's the game of Jesse Hogan versus the tall forward line of Western Bulldogs.
Yeah, it is wild. I'm going to go GWS.
I'm going to go against you and say Western Bulldogs here.
Yeah, I feel like it's a coin toss. But
it's going to be, I'd say that's the game of the round for sure.
But is it the game that you're most interested in? Because Carlton St Kilda, oh my goodness.
Come on, Saints.
I could never barrack for St Kilda any harder. Carlton St Kilda, I'm gonna tip Carlton because I've got one of those weird people heads that is if I tip Saints, I'll lose type thing.
Okay, opposite. Feel on it. Yeah. Obviously, I'm going to hopefully tip St Kilda by 1,000 points. That'll be a good game. Obviously, we'll keep eyes on that over the weekend after we finish up ours. And then the last one we're going to, Freo versus Port at Optus.
It could be an amazing game.
Will know their outcome before the game starts, I feel like, or at least during it, right?
Do you reckon if they know pre-game or however it works out, we should have got the times up there, if they know that they can't make finals, do you reckon that would really deflate them heading into that game?
Man, if I'm a Freo admin or something, it's shut off all the TVs, shut off all the phones. No matter what happens, just be guys, focus on winning the game. Don't care about the rest of the results. Just finish on a good feel at the end of the year, no matter what happens. And hopefully, the Carlton St Kilda game goes their way. So I think that's the idea for them. I don't know. I think that's going to be a tough to beat Port Adelaide at this point. I'm going to have to go Port Adelaide's going to beat Freo over at Optus, and it's going to be It's going to be a tough time for Freo supporters. So if you know one, shoot him a text this week.
My housemate, Dave, goes for Freo. I'm going to go for Freo just because I want it all to work in the right order. So I'm going for Freo. Let's jump into the... do you have your cock lock? I'm going to go Brisbane v Essendon at the Gabba Massacre.
Sydney versus Adelaide. I'll go Sydney at the SCG.
You just said you had a weird feeling.
I do have a weird feeling, but lock it in.
We're jumping straight into your fan questions. This is by McLennan.
Yep.
What's your favourite thing and least favourite thing about playing footy?
Favorite thing is being able to play in front of big crowds with your mates. That's pretty crazy to think. Like, I've never experienced local footy, so like that. This is all I know. So it's kind of cool to me.
I think it's safe for you to go and play local footy after you're done.
I don't think it'll be either. I think I'll be getting king hit left, right, and center. That's for sure. I don't think that Carlton draft. Maybe if you pay me enough, I don't know. But
think of the crowd.
The least favorite thing, man, probably like the surgeries and stuff like that. It can be quite isolating, having to get surgeries and the injuries and stuff that come with it. Obviously, a very heavy contact sport.
That's very fair. Yep. This one by Omar1118.
Yep.
Or 1,118.
Yeah, okay.
Are you going to be at the Magpies next year? You'd hope so, right?
Yeah, I'd hope so. I got a contract for it. So unless you, my 1118, know something I don't know, please let me know. That's the plan, yeah.
It's Greg McRae. General questions. Let's jump into them because this one from Andy Ian 888.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Post Malone turning country?
Man, he's actually from the same area that I'm from. He's like a 15-minute drive away from my home house, like my actual house I grew up in.
So it would have been weirder for you that he went rap.
Yeah, it was weirder for me that he went rap being from Texas. I was kind of like, oh, okay. And like, there's videos of him. If you ever get some free time, just go on YouTube and look up like, Post Malone, early days of high school. He's in like a leopard leotard like thing and he's dancing or something. It's really weird, man, but it's hilarious. And you're thinking, this guy turned into one of the most popular artists this world has at the moment. I'm all for it, man. I think, Beyonce is gone country. Post Malone is going country. Who knows what's next? I'm all for it. So being a Texas boy, it's great to see someone go to Texas, Yeah, like Miley Cyrus is the same, right? Yeah, like she's like, grew up in Nashville and she's, a pop star, quote unquote, but I think her roots are country. So it's cool to see them kind of go through that phase and then come back.
I've come way across to country. I'm all about country now. I don't know. Wow. Don't ask me the guys and stuff. But like, I like the songs. Harrow's got a nice little country playlist.
The songs that couldn't have been more generic.
Yeah,
the songs of music and
What's that?
Country.
Zach Bryan? I'm that guy.
Zach Bryan's where it's at.
He's that guy. Yeah. He's the Chris gateway drug to the country music. Yeah. This one from Finn Horton. He's got a couple, I think. Finn. Yeah. What is a long-term goal that you both have in life? Currently that you're working towards?
Oh, man, I think we're both trying to find a wife. That's probably the first thing. Now, I think there's obviously personal and career goals. Career goals last year was a massive one, winning the whole thing. And, now it's, trying to do it again and trying to be your best version of yourself. And then after that, trying to really find what you love in life and what you really enjoy post-football and really kind of enjoy that next phase. There's a lot of uncertainty with AFL players, of what's next. And I do feel that, at times, but hopefully once it all kind of finishes up, whenever that may be, I can walk into something I'm super passionate about and love going into work every day.
Yeah. And me, Roland Media, going to be the biggest podcast production company in the world.
Get onto them now.
Let's go to the world.
Buy shares now.
Harrison is going to be... I don't know. He'll probably stay in the same role and I'll just hire around him. But let's go to this last one by Deb McMarcher. I'm going to say.
Love that.
How'd you boys meet?
Do you want to hit that one? I think you...
Yeah, it's pretty... I worked at the Collingwood Football Club running the video department. Mace got drafted. First time we ever met technically was over Skype.
Zoom probably back in probably Skype actually. It's that long ago. Zoom wasn't even a thing.
Over Skype in from America.
Yeah.
And it was pretty shambolic.
It was.
The interview, the internet dropped out. It deleted everything on our server.
How good was it? Like trashy little Star Athletic shirt that I had on that had my name on the back and number 7.
We got you to say, go Pies, go Pies, up the Mags.
So awkward.
But 10 years in now.
10 years in. Pretty crazy to think,
I can't believe I'm that old.
Yeah, we're just going to move past that. Let's go to the next segment,
I
Brayden.
like these. Would you rathers. Now, there's a fair few creative would you rathers in. I don't want much thought before it, but you can, dissect it afterwards. Yep. This one from Taryn and George. What would you rather? If the ball hits the post, comes back into play, it's play on, or a behind if it hits the goalpost, obviously.
I would love for it to be play on.
Yeah,
I'd love for it to but even if it goes through the goals and skims the post, that's still a goal as long as it crosses the line.
Yeah.
I think that would be sick. It would just be kind of add extra action, and then people would be the players just kind of turn off whenever someone's having a set shot that's 30 in or 40 in or whatever.
Yeah.
I just feel all of a sudden now you have these players on edge of if it hits the post, I got to be ready there to be able to try to
all the crummers
grab
would be
something
ready
up.
to crumb.
Yeah, 100% you would. So I'm all for it's play on. Adds a bit of chaos to the game, which we always love.
I like this one. It's another Finn Horton special. To win the grand final, would you rather lay a massive chase down tackle or pump a goal home from the goal square?
Oh, man.
So they're key forwards sprinting towards the goal, and here comes Mason like a gazelle running up behind him like that Sasquatch from, what's the Adam Sandler? Happy Gilmore. That big Sasquatch guy that's chasing after him.
That's Mr. Gilmore's jacket.
Would you rather a chase down tackle or just pump it into the top tier and the whole cheer squad's behind you as you're double fisting it or whatever celebration you choose to go with? You hit them with the shush, confuse the shit out of everyone.
Confused as hell, just going, why am I?
What would you rather?
I think the chase down tackle, because it would just be so iconic of how ridiculous myself chasing someone down in a big moment like that would be. And then also I think there's that excitement of everyone else sees it but the person with the ball.
Yeah.
So you have that kind of
if you did the Izak Quaynor tackle from the weekend, but it was you.
Yeah.
And it was a grand final.
Let's just take all the hypotheticals that probably would never happen. I'm going to go chase down tackle. Both are great, obviously, but
chase down. People will remember the chase down tackle. Yeah. People remember the Heath Shaw smother. It's it's different. But if you could pair that with the next one, what would you rather? 30 disposal game or 3 goals?
I've kicked 3 goals in a game before. I've done that multiple times, and I don't.
What's your best? 5 Queen's birthday.
5 Queen's birthday, I think. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a 30 disposal game.
What's your best? 20, 21 or something?
No idea. I think it was maybe.
I think it was another Queen's
GWS
birthday game.
Or is it GWS last year? I think, or Melbourne last year, maybe. While DC was out. I think 30 disposals. Yeah, because you're just sitting there. There's one. I think we played Melbourne. It was a couple of years ago. And you just feeling it, and you start hitting inside 45. It's just stuff you should never do, as a ruckman. You just don't. That's not in your wheelhouse. Yeah. But you just don't care at that point. You just have the ultimate confidence. You're just swinging for the fences. See, I think that's always good.
I think marry that 30 disposal game with the chase down tackle in the grand final to win it. People their heads would actually explode.
They build a statue, mate.
Imagine that. Your head would explode. You'd be like, what am I watching? This mammoth dude running around out there just collecting pill. What would you rather? This is a bit of a left field one.
Yeah.
Steam come out of your ears every time you're mad, or every time you're excited, you bark like a dog.
Oh, man.
Can't imagine that every time you're excited, you bark like a dog. It's going to do much justice for our hunt for a wife.
Can you imagine that? Does he have a tick or something? It's what is going on here? I think it's steam coming out of my ears when you're mad. But the problem with that is it would be every day. It would just be, there's little things that just infuriate me sometimes. And you just start seeing a little bit of smoke coming out of my ears and you be going, yeah, maybe I should just stay away from him for the next 30 seconds.
My thought, though, does it lighten the mood? If you're angry and then steam starts coming out, that's funny.
Yeah.
And in my head, the little whistle plays, the train whistle.
You think of the cartoon of what's going on. You think it.
All right, let's jump into this one because it's the last one. I want you to rank these from best to worst. They're written on the screen here. He doesn't have that good a memory. This should be the concussion test.
This should be the concussion test. list. We put them in bold to make it more obvious.
Rank these shape flavors best to worst. So you got pizza, barbecue, cheddar.
Oh, you started strong.
Chicken, crimpy, savory, cheese and bacon, nacho cheese, Vegemite and cheese. So they're your top 8.
We're going to keep Vegemite and cheese at the bottom. Sorry, Australians. I have yet to be transferred over to that. We'll start back at the top. We'll go probably in that order. Pizza, number 1. Yep. Barbecue, second, which I find it weird that pizza is a flavor for chips. It's still, I mean, like what? There's so many different types of pizza.
If they didn't tell you what flavor it was, if they just handed you the box for the first time ever, said, hey, we're making these biscuits. They're biscuits, technically, I guess. Yeah. If they hand you this box of biscuits and told you to name it a flavor, would you say pizza?
Nah, probably not. It's one of those weird, I mean, like chicken crimpy, like what?
I feel like cheddar's probably the only one that tastes like cheddar.
Like cheese, yeah. And it's a questionable cheese because it kind of tastes like it's out the can. Like it doesn't really. It's a cheese powder.
Anyway,
we'll go back to it. Sorry. We'll go pizza, barbecue. I'll go probably cheese and bacon.
Yeah, I like that.
To cheddar, to savory chicken crimpy. Wait, hold on. I forgot nacho cheese. Put nacho cheese back up to like 4. Yeah. Move down. So we go from chicken crimpy. And then the only one left is really Vegemite and cheese.
Yeah.
So you're like pizza, barbecue, cheese and bacon, cheddar, savory, nacho cheese, chicken crimpy, Vegemite and cheese.
I think I have changed to something. I've like grown. I think
your palate's refined now.
I think cheese and bacon is probably my fave.
Really?
Yeah. And then pizza,
I haven't had it in a long time.
Barbecue, cheddar. Oh, no, yeah, I forget nacho cheese too.
It's nacho cheese. It's
nacho cheese is probably above cheddar.
Yeah.
Oh, I like Vegemite and cheese.
No.
Anyway, chicken crimpy and savory like down the bottom. I just don't like the biscuit is a lot more fluffy.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't like that.
It's
because if you don't have a drink, heaven help you. Death by chicken crimpy.
It's literally eating cinnamon.
Anyway, that's all the questions you have. Thanks for sending those into the Instagram. They're great.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's always good to have a bit of a fan question and give back to the community.
Remember we cracked the tin was it last year? We were sitting in the van. No, it must have been the year before. Oh, we probably got drunk last time because you won the flag.
Yeah, I was in a...
You were already drunk. You came in pre-drunk.
That was for a week of celebrations, bro.
Anyway, if there's not a 200-point swing next, we're cracking a tin on the podcast.
How good. You're going to love that. But that is it for us today. Just a massive thank you as always for tuning in. There's a bit to play out. Carlton, Freo, we're going to keep a keen eye on you over the weekend, that's for sure. And but that is it from us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Follow us on all the socials and all the Spotify and Apple Music or wherever you get your podcasts. But massive, massive thank you for being a part of the show and helping out with the questions. We really appreciate it. But have an incredible week. May your teams get up over the weekend. And hopefully it's some beautiful weather wherever you're at. Peace.
See ya.